With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin. We are back at Hyannis Harbor at Bismore Park specifically, continuing to talk about the aftermath of Tropical Storm Irene. Today, I'm joined by Harbor Master Dan Horn. Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming out today and joining us on the show.
Sure, no problem. No problem at all.
So before we talk about the damage that Irene did here in the town of Barnstable, tell me a little bit about your preparations. When did you begin to prepare the town's marinas?
Well, actually, we started, I guess we started like a lot of people, probably about a week before the storm hit. And really that had to do with monitoring the storm and trying to determine, what effect it may or may not have on our waterways and on our marinas. I guess it was about Thursday where we met internally and started making preparations, making sure that all our marinas were going to be staffed. We talked about staffing issues. We talked about making sure we had equipment staged in certain areas, the pumps, trash pumps, portable pumps, and things like that, extra line. We started making plans with our boats at that time. We hauled a couple out on Thursday, and then we finished pulling them out on, I guess it was Friday, late afternoon, that we ended up pulling our boats, up out of the water and stored safely at our facility at Finney's Lane. So we looked at that. We equipped all our vehicles, made sure they had lines, the gas and the necessary preparations. We had the equipment ready to go, and we checked it all. So
is it an all-hands-on-deck type of situation when you're doing storm preparation?
For the storm preparation, it was all hands on deck. Yes, it was. Everybody from Marine and Environmental Affairs contributed. Our natural resource officers, were key. They too had to get their equipment ready, the chainsaws and our shellfish staff. They had to take care of what was in the water, make sure that wasn't going to be affected. So yeah, all hands on deck.
Exactly, all hands on deck. So in terms of coordinating the public, because I know obviously you got your own boats out of the water, but I know that there are many people who have their boats at slips and moorings, some on the beaches. So tell me a little bit about how you were able to coordinate with the public to have them get their boats out, or if they wanted to.
Well, certainly the office was open, throughout. Through Friday anyhow. So any calls that came in, our administrative assistants Debbie and Mary, they knew what to tell people if people had questions. We also posted some links on the town's website of what should be done or what should not be done during storms. And the other thing is we tried to be visible. We tried to get to the ramps. We tried to talk to people and.
Right, and you didn't make it mandatory for people to remove their boats, right? It's really at the owner's discretion.
It is. For our marinas, we made the decision that, we felt that we would be able to keep our customers anyhow, and we did allow some boats to come in and tie up with us. We felt fairly comfortable that they were going to make it through the storm okay, and fortunately that paid off.
Now, I was talking with Joe Gibbs about the dinghy situation. I know that there are many places where people, have their boats on moorings, that they have their dinghies kind of unsecured or just lying along the beaches. Were people good about taking their dinghies off?
I'd have to say yes and no. Certainly with the storm surge that came in, at least in my travels to the landings, so the dinghies were moved further up towards the streets or whatever. Some folks took them out, and as they should, but not everybody. So yeah, we had some dinghies wash a little further up. I haven't had any reports of missing dinghies or anything like that. So people after the storm have already been back and tending to their boats and their dinghies.
So let's talk about the impact of Irene itself. What can you tell me? Where was the area that was hardest hit here in town, as far as you're concerned?
Well, as far as boats, I think it would have been the Three Bay area, and that's not totally unexpected. It's a Catuit Bay is a very wide open stretch of water, and the wind and the waves have a chance to really kind of build up there. we had townwide about 30 boats that we had issues either breaking free from their moorings. We had a few boats sunk.
Yeah, I think I have a friend who had a houseboat, a very old houseboat in the Three Bays area.
Yes,
that,
right. That's one of them.
The storm,
Right. I know the one you're talking about, and so as I said, we had about 30. 2/3 of that or so was in the Three Bay area, and pretty much into the the stretch of the Katua shoreline.
So really, all in all, not a huge amount of damage, at least to boats.
Not a huge amount. What we're doing is with each of these, we take a look and we try and find out why that boat may have broke free. Whether it was did it take the mooring with it? Did it not? Was it a chafing gear issue? The lines chafed. And so far from what I'm seeing is the lion's share was a chafing issue. But we did have some moorings that dragged. So we're going to take all this. We're going to have to sit down, evaluate, see if we can, talk it over. Maybe there's some changes needed, maybe not. But it's something we certainly will be looking at. Obviously, if we can improve, we will.
Indeed. Well, one good thing that always comes out of these situations is the ability to learn from it and to see what happens and take that data and see if it'll make it a little bit better around the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Our staff has already have some thoughts for the next one, and so we'll be focusing on that. We'll be working with our waterways committees. We'll be working with other departments, about our marine facilities, and as we both just said, if there's room for some improvement, that's what we'll look to do. Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about storm surge damage. I know that was one thing that people were very concerned about, and especially where you are at the marinas. What was the storm surge like?
Well, the storm surge, at least here at Bismore Park, it did come up over the over the finger piers and into the sidewalk area and a little bit up into the grass. It certainly could have been a lot worse. We were affected by a storm surge, but fortunately our marinas came through pretty much okay. The only thing that I know of at this point was really we had one connecting rod, one end of it came loose over in Barnstable Harbor. Other than that, we fared pretty well at our marinas.
Excellent.
But the thing with this storm, it was, even though it may not have had as high winds as we were really expecting, it lasted a long time.
It did.
There were 10, 12 hours of just constant wind, and that, I think, had the effect on the boats, just swaying back and forth on their lines and things, and that's probably what contributed to the chafing and some of the issues.
So what are you and your crew working on now? I know you mentioned yesterday that you're going to be rather busy for the rest of the week, so tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of what we do is afterwards. One, we try to make sure that every boat that came ashore, that the owners are aware and are taking whatever steps necessary to address the problem. And from what we've seen yesterday, that is happening. People are getting to their boats, they're pulling them off, getting commercial assistance, whether it be by boat or crane. We've had a few taken offshore by crane. So we're monitoring that. But what we do is after the storm, we put our boats in first thing. The concern, first and foremost, is safety of people. They get their boats back in and just drive around, but we want to make sure that there's nothing in their way. There could be some debris, there could be some boats that sunk that we don't know about, and so we're monitoring for that. Also, we maintain about 200 channel markers throughout town, and we did have some effect. I should have mentioned that with a storm surge.
Surely.
What happened is they get picked up, they get dragged, they're off station now. So we were out there yesterday trying to put them back on station, and at this point I'd say we're about 90% complete of getting things back in order. We're back out there already this morning, checking. The last few areas we don't think got hit, but we're just making sure of that. So it's getting everything back and make sure everything's safer.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for all your hard work.
Well, thank you for having me.
Great. Our Marine Environmental Affairs Department here in the town of Barnstable working very hard to make sure that everything's all neat and clean and safe following Tropical Storm Irene. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.